Hello, welcome to the Sideboard here at theStarCityGames.com Season 3 Invitational in Atlanta, part of the SCG Tour, brought to you by Ultimate Guard. I'm Nick Miller alongside the Players Champion, Jim Davis.
How's it going?
You have one more week of reigning Players Champion.
Why only one more week? I'm going to have all time.
Oh, we're going to go back to back?
Yeah, and then that's it, right? There's no more Players Championships, so it's an eternal thing.
We'll
kind of like how Ali Antrazi is the eternal U.S. national champion.
All right, well, you're calling your shot now.
Not calling my shot. I'm just saying it's pretty likely.
Sounds like a shot to me.
No comment.
All right, let's talk about the standard deck you brought to the table here. Two decks in the format, Black-Green Delirium and White-Blue Flash, are dominating. Mm-hmm. You have a take of the blue-white deck that near and dear to my heart. You're beating down a lot harder.
Absolutely.
You're not sitting back on a bunch of slow, grindy cards. You've taken the White-Blue Shell here, and you've gone low to the ground with Toolcraft Exemplar and Thraben Inspector, sort of like the Mardu Vehicles build. Just, you have the Black Splash for Scrap Heat Scrounger, but you're really just a White-Blue beatdown deck.
Correct. Yeah, so we thought the Red-Green Aetherworks deck was going to be the breakout deck of this tournament. The deck's actually very, very good. It's very good against Delirium, and it's not as bad against Blue-White Flash as people think. Mm-hmm. And Dan last night was like, hey, I saw this deck. I think it could be really, really good. And basically the idea is that we're having all the pluses of blue-white against a deck like the Aetherworks deck where we have the counter spells, the spell colors and stuff. But we're also able to get under Ishkana in the black-green deck while having counter spells against them too. So we're basically having all of the plus side of the vehicles decks, which is the very aggressive draws, Exemplar and Scrounger, Copter, Gideon. We're also having the versatility of the counter spells against some of the bigger threats in the format, namely Ishkana.
Now, have you been able to actually get under Ishkana here? Because Mardu Vehicles sort of has the same ground creatures, but then they peter out when Ishkana comes down. How are you with this build?
Yeah, it's gone very, very well. I'm 3-0 right now. I know Kevin and Dan are both 1-1. I think Dan's 2-1 now. But basically, if you can counter it, the game just ends. We have two main deck rebuffs, and of course, out of a sideboard, we have more counter spells. But it's pretty hard for our opponent to stabilize, tap 5, play Ishkana, and if we counter it, to live that turn.
Sure.
So we have the rebuffs. Thalia also answers it as well. Thalia's great. And Declaration can mop up a bit too. We can play a little bit of a later game with Gideon and stuff, but for the most part, we're trying to get under it.
Yeah, you actually have the ability, unlike the previous or the popular build of White-Blue, is you have the pressure to where they have to play Ishkana early, as opposed to waiting to play around something like Revolutionary Rebuff. Right.
So once the rebuff tech came out, the black-green players just wait till turn 7.
Sure.
And they weren't under so much pressure they couldn't do that. And we felt like blue-white deck. I think Ari Lax wrote an article about why he thought it sucked. Is that correct?
Everybody's split. Everyone thinks either the deck's great or it's horrible.
Yeah,
There's no middle ground.
I think it's bad because it has 4 1-drops and 8 2-drops, but the Selfless Spirits aren't very good against almost anything. So you're really down to 4 1-drops and 4 2-drops that are good. So a lot of your draws you just start on turn 3, and that makes your counter spells and your spell colors and your more reactive things just worse because they can just see you have a Queller and just not play anything on turn 3, and now you're in the spot where you need to be aggressive, but you really can't be, and maybe you're just playing Spell Queller for nothing. It's without the 1-drop, 2-drop draw, it just seems very awkward.
Right.
So we were trying to.
This deck enables you to do that.
Exactly.
You get to have the pressure and then the good parts of the White-Blue deck when trying to push damage with your tempo spot. So of course we got to mention Reflector Mage and Spell Queller here, along with Thalia, which is a kind of an addition that a lot of the White-Blue decks are starting to kind of move toward.
Yeah, Thalia's great. I wish we had room for 2. We just couldn't figure out what to cut for the second one. Obviously, Queller and Reflector Mage are both very good 3-drops, so we're a little log jam there, but Thalia's really, really good. We have the second one on the board mostly against Ishkana decks.
And now you have a bunch of removal too, which kind of enables the aggressive starts to continue beating down. Stasis Snare and Declaration Stone go along with your Revolutionary rebuffs.
Right, so Declaration's a card that it's harder to play in the slower version of a deck because your opponent's going to get the value off the clues, and then you're kind of you're just giving them cards essentially. But when you're taking a more aggressive stance, they obviously don't have time to do that. And also there's times where, Declaration used to be a very popular card in the format. It's less popular now. People were very, very well trained to keep unique creature names in play, and they aren't as much anymore. Especially because the blue-white deck doesn't really play that card. So I was playing online a few days ago and I killed 2 Mindwrack Demons. And it was just a complete blowout, and so it's just a very, very good aggressive card, and this deck actually is able to make use of it by being so aggressive.
Right, so the cards we've kind of moved out of the main deck that the original build, Selfless Spirit and Archangel Avacyn in your sideboard of this build. I assume when there's matchups where you kind of need to become the slower deck,
it's typically
or more
like
protective deck.
Right, typically the trade-off here is that typically these sort of like blue-white kind of like fish decks are typically very, very good against the control decks and very good against the combo decks, but worse against the decks that are more aggressive. So we kind of like borrowed the page from the blue-white strategy and go a little slower against them. We have the Spirit Avacyn combo. We can kind of like play a little more of a control role, still kind of tempo-y, but not so all in on just 1-drops and 2-drops. Obviously Scrounger and Copter don't play defense very well, neither does Toolcraft Exemplar.
Right. But then the rest of the cards kind of just slot right back into this strategy of what you're doing. You can kind of take away removal spells for more counter spells, or vice versa. So you got Negate, Spell Shrivel, and then more Declarations in Stone, Fragmentize, Stasis Snare, and then the Skyship.
Yep, some, a lot of more removal or counter spells as needed. Skyship's cool. It's really, really good. It's kind of a weird card. It's very, very good. It really dominates the board. Obviously costs 5, which is a lot. It's kind of like in a weird spot where I don't think there's any deck yet that can really utilize it to its fullest potential. But I think it's a card that, like, as the format grows and more cards come, like a deck could find a home in a deck and be really, really, really good. Here, it's just kind of like a good one of our sideboard.
Well, your 3-0, the deck looks very good, and it definitely looks more streamlined in terms of what you want to be doing. Your game plan looks very clear. Anything you want to kind of change? Anything you want to try to fit into the deck now that you got some reps under it?
The deck seems great. I mean, I'm very happy that me, Dan, and Kevin are all playing it. Kevin jumped on board this morning. He was going to play Blue-White Flash. He was like, you know what? I'm just going to do it. So it's cool that we're all playing the same deck. We don't always do that because of preferences. Kevin likes his Flash decks, and I like certain kinds of decks and so on. But having all three of us playing it's really cool.
All right. Well, the deck looks great. You're doing great. I recommend it. Thanks for joining me here in the sideboard. Stay tuned to StarCityGames.com all weekend long for the action here in Atlanta.